நம்ம கிரியேட்டிவிட்டி பிளானட் சேனலில் நிறைய ஃபன்னி வீடியோஸ், கேம் வீடியோஸ், வீலாக்ஸ் அண்ட் நேச்சர் லவ்ஸ்ன்ற நிறைய என்டர்டெயின்மெண்ட்டான வீடியோஸ் இருக்குது. எல்லாருக்கும் கண்டிப்பாக பிடிக்கும். ஸோ சேனலை மறக்காமல் சப்ஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணி வச்சுக்கோங்க அண்ட் பெல் பட்டனையும் அழுத்தி வச்சுக்கோங்க. அப்போ தான் நாங்கள் போடுற எல்லா வீடியோஸோட நோட்டிஃபிகேஷன் உங்களுக்கு வரும். உங்களுக்கு கண்டிப்பாக நாங்கள் போடுற எல்லா வீடியோஸும் பிடிக்கும். ஸோ லைக்கும் பண்ணி வச்சுக்கோங்க. அப்புறம் மறக்காமல் உங்கள் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ்க்கு ஷேரும் பண்ணிடுங்க.
Today we are going to read the 4th chapter of A Sweeping Look at Vedanta. The chapter name is The Goal of Perfection Achieved. We have been trying to find out whether there is any logical or scientific treatment in the spiritual literature of the world. To a large extent, we have found that the declaration of spiritualists regarding the world of object or in conformity with our limited knowledge of world of phenomena gained through science. We also found that compared with the amount of logical reasoning made use of by the chairs, our present day philosopher in the field of politics, economics, science or art are almost thoughtless men who have been only mere reporter of physical observation. Indeed, ours is an age of reason with a minimum reasoning. Though we have thus found that the scriptural truth declaration can be felt through our scientific knowledge and logical thinking, they are not being conclusively proven by either of them. This inability of logic and insufficiency of science have no doubt estranged the majority of great believers of this age. Our sympathies should be always with them. In the philosophic portion of all religion of the world, it is unanimous declared the truth or God, conceived as the all-pervading eternal factor, is beyond the perception of sense organ or the mind or the intellect. God cannot be seen or heard or smelt or tasted or touched, nor he is to be felt or understood. Such declarations are the disparations of 18th century materialists. The modern scientists certainly have not the same amount of faith in their body, mind and intellect as their predecessors had, who discovered the atom and declared that the world of object is nothing but a combination of atoms. In any modern scientist or the children of present age still doubt the existence of things beyond the courtyard of perception. They are only the ripe Van Winkle of 18th century, just woken up to this age of electrons and protons of the infrared rays and ultraviolet rays. If truth be beyond our perception, feeling and thought, why is it so? No doubt your despair clearly indicates in you a very healthy faith in the power of your intellect and mind. But only when compared with the lesser instruments of understanding have they any great power. When we are analyzing life in the laboratory of the mind, we cannot afford to be sentimental or soft. When observed under the cold light of reason, we have to admit that intellect and mind, though wonderful in themselves, have their own limitation. This seems to be a difficult thing for us in our consummate vanity to admit, and hence the difficulty for the ordinary man to accept the theory of spiritualism. A little scrutiny will declare to us how exactly are our instruments limited in this capacity. For example, with our eyes, we can see the object. We know that the eyes are the instrument of vision. But the eyes by themselves cannot see. If they could, then I could have plucked my eyes and made an offer of them to my blind neighbor. But modern science insists that the eyeball is itself is important without the nerve center of vision in the brain. In fact, our eyes are only the instrument of seeing, and very rarely do we understand the full importance of this declaration. Let us try to understand it with an example. A telescope is an instrument for viewing distant objects. The instrument in itself does not see anything at all. The observer at the eyepiece viewing through the telescope sees the object in heaven. Here the subject is observing the object through the instrument. Similarly, the eye is an instrument by which the seers look out to see the object of the form and color. A telescope viewer may observe the entire world of object with the instrument, but he will never succeed in observing himself with the same telescope. Indeed, the moment the viewer behind the eyepiece shifts himself to be in front of the object piece of the telescope, there is no seer observing the object. We cannot have the cake and eat it. Philosophically, this truth is declared as the same entity cannot be the subject and object at once, at the same time. An observer cannot himself be at once the observed also. From the above, it is clear that there is an active intelligent seer behind the eye, a hearer behind the ears, a smeller behind the nose, a taste behind the tongue, and feeler behind the skin. The conscious awareness which is the seer in the eye cannot be different from the awareness which is the hearer behind the ear. It is one and the same conscious principle of awareness that is the experiencer behind all the sense organs. Same must be feeler behind the mind and knower behind the intellect. In short, our life being nothing but our capacity to reach through the instrument of cognition, feelings, and understanding. This observer is nothing but the life principle in us acting through these various equipments. Now it is quite reasonable to feel the logic behind the seemingly outrageous statement that the reality cannot be seen or felt or understood. How can it be? If we can see God, we can see ourselves with the telescope. If we can feel God, then we can go for long pilgrimage riding on our own shoulders. If we can understand with our understanding, the understander in ourselves, then while riding a car, we can get ourselves run over by the same car. But it is in this sense the great scriptures of the world declare pithily that God or the supreme reality cannot be seen or felt or understood as an object. God is the eternal subject, one without a second, all pervading knowledge, absolute which is the very essence of our life. In such a science of religion, dealing with theme available neither for the mind nor for the intellect, how can we say that the creative power is understandable through logic and science? This may be legitimate doubt in you. Nobody says that we can, nor did I during this discussion ever promise that we will ever do so. If the wording of topic have given you such a misunderstanding, I apologize. And my only argument would be that, but for this love prompted practical joke, we would not have the nameless joy of meeting each other in such large number, engaging ourselves for a couple of hours every day in such a highly philosophical inquiry on life as a whole, as well as on the part with which is constituted. From our discussion so far, you should not all of a sudden jump to conclusion that the theory of perfection pointed out by the science of religion is a call of idiot, and no, and that too only to be stupid and thoughtless. The religious perfection is that stage of pure knowledge or awareness reached when the mind and the intellect are developed to the maximum and then transcended in a conscious process of growth. Figuratively, we may say that logic and science, meaning the mind and intellect, do serve as a pair of footwear up to the sacred door of temple of truth. There we have to place them aside before we enter into the divine sanctum. A vehicle, however noble and costly it may be, it is used in driving ourselves only up to the porch of our host. There we leave our carrier to step out and walk into the drawing room. The mind and the intellect with us are to be trained and purified to yield their maximum potentiality, and having thus made use of them to take us to the very frontier of their reach, we have to discard them and proceed to the great beyond. However they are to be trained and how they ultimately reach the state of integration had been our discussion yesterday. When we try to re-estimate scientifically the subjective reactions to the techniques of yoga in the spiritual seeker. When the mind and the intellect are thus fully integrated, they provide the seeker with a pair of wings to fly to the beyond. The purifications and disciplining of the mind and intellect are the careful adjustments that are to be made to make the individual fully meditational work. Before we discuss how this flight into ourselves make us experience the real self and the eternal subject, we shall try to understand a simple topic which in psychology is like tick list. Without this correct knowledge, I am afraid it will be futile for us to continue our discussion. Now I humbly request you for maximum cooperation and single-pointed attention for a few moments. Thus, there is no moment in life when we are not having the awareness of something or the other. Maybe it is of an object in the outside world, or maybe it is of an object within ourselves, in our mind or intellect, presented to us as a feeling or idea. Every moment we are acquiring knowledge of things, the knowledge of table or the book of pen, the book or a book or a pen or a pen or a chair. Here the knowledge of table is different from the knowledge of chair in assumes, as the table is not the chair, but certainly the knowledge as such that illuminates the table and the chair in one and the same. Thus there is great difference between the knowledge of things and the knowledge as such. I shall try to make it more clear by an example. I entered a dark room at night with a 6-celled torch in my hand. I switched on the torch and its beam of light passed the object into the room. I see the table when the light falls on the table. When the torch is moved, the beam of light passed on to the various objects in the room, such as self, the code, the cot, etc. The illuminated objects are certainly different from one another, but the light principle that illuminates them all is certainly one and the same. The light conditioned by the table is certainly different from the light defined by the court, but light as such is one and the same. Similarly, the knowledge of things, meaning or meaning our awareness conditioned by the object is certainly different from object to object, but the awareness or the knowledge as such is one and the same. When it plays out through the different equipment such as the sense organs, deaf mind, or the intellect illumines for us the corresponding object. Science deals with only the conditioned knowledge and not the knowledge as such. Thus viewed, science is a limited knowledge, and logic a frail instrument of knowing, with the instrument of limitations, with limited knowledge. The unlimited cannot be known. With the condition, the unconditioned is never measured. Once glass is no instrument to calculate the quantity of the ocean. A limited human mind and intellect are no tape to measure the all-pervading God, the reality of the soul. In this sense, only did the great cheers of old repeated declare that true or God is beyond the sense and mind. When we had integrated fully our inner personality through a diligent and sincere practice of any one of the process of self-perfection discussed already here, the individual is ready for the great takeoff. Fitted with such a pair of wings, the seeker shoots across the realm of time, space, and casuality into the very domain of pure consciousness. In fact, through concerned meditation, a seeker diligently learns to gather all the scattered awareness of things from the outer world at the first, and next from the part of his body. Thereafter, he rolls into himself all his awareness that is being wasted in his mental zone. Lastly, he withdraws all his awareness contact from his intellectual personality. When thus there is no object for awareness to be aware of, it is being nothing but awareness. Should you be, my friends, great scientist, incomparably logical, or unapproachable philosopher to appreciate the possibility that at that moment the awareness will have to become awareful of itself, what it is and how it is like, or not within our known experiences, and so it would not come within the expressions of language or feelings or thoughts. Language is, after all, the expression of limited experiences gained among the finite sense object. Even here, when an experience is not superficial but slightly deeper, language fails. Language have no entry into the realm of truth. To experience, at least for once, this pure awareness as such, it is to know or understand the creative power, and this can be achieved only through logic and science, but not by them. Without a well-developed head and heart, intellect and mind, no advancement towards the life center in our own being is possible. Knowledge as such, the creative power, comes to know itself only when its preoccupation with the object, the world, mind, intellect, body, the world, body, mind, and intellect have ended. In that calm moment, in the silence hour of joyous awareness, God peeps out from his dome of pure conscience upon himself the truth. At the moment, the seeker is God. The seeker becomes the shout. This video is ending by now. The chapter 4 of A Sweeping Look at Vedanta is done, and the book is done. Thanks for watching this video.